Welcome to Pie Guys Pick'em. What a win! Black Friday, all the bets, the Bears, beautiful casher. I hope everybody in the United States enjoyed their Thanksgiving holidays, of course, yesterday and today. Oh, it started with a loser with Lions Packers under. It looked good for the first quarter. I watched that first quarter looked like, oh, here we go. But the offenses eventually woke up and Packers got the win. Probably should have been on the Packers in hindsight. I think it was just my own personal bias. I just don't like the team, but the Lions are in a bad way right now, and Lions were off a loss too. So no, they were off the win. They did come back to the Giants. So yeah, probably should have been on the Packers. Mistakes were made. I didn't trust them fully, but probably should have been on them. And I probably should have been on the Cowboys and a two. I'm glad I stayed off the ender. I had the tingling sense. I'm like, these offenses are going to work. Cowboys got a little bit of help from the Zebras in that game. Chiefs not getting the whistle for once. Shocking turn of events. And, Tony Romo on the broadcast saying, the Cowboys next week, they're in Detroit, who's in a bad way right now. And now, and after that, though, they could really run the table. It could be trouble for the Dallas for the NFC in terms of the Cowboys aren't out of it. They could definitely still make the playoffs, I believe, in this NFC that has been lackluster. Not exactly the best. They're better than the AFC, but the Packers, the Lions, some of these wild card teams. The Eagles, we saw what happened today with the Eagles. Not my favorite in terms of wild card and even division winners in the case of the Eagles, or division leaders anyway. The Eagles, that loss today. You probably could have put the division away with the win, but the Bears were very, very good, and now the Cowboys are coming, and they're definitely live, especially with that tie, which makes everything really, really weird in the standings. And the night game sweep. I was right. Cowboy Keith was wrong. He was eating crow last night, though I think his same game parlay cash. So he was pretty happy regardless. But the Bengals cover easily. Probably should have bet the money line. The second half money line was like upwards of near plus 400 here. It's plus 3 and change. And they won the second half as well. Joe Burrow making a big difference. And the Ravens offense, they probably should have scored more. There was the fumble by Likely. There was the touchdown that was called back as a result of offensive pass interference. There was a little bit ticky-tack, but maybe they were looking for that call. Maybe the Ravens used it before. By the letter of the book, it might have been, but I thought it was a little bit ticky-tack. But Bengals under cash, so I'm not complaining. And then, of course, today, Bears plus 7, easiest winner on the board. Bears money line cashes at a big plus number. It was plus 280. The Bears money line, I got it at around 270, 280. And of course, the Eagles team total under cashes again. They still have not scored 24 points since their bye. And I told you that this is the same pattern we saw a couple of years ago with the Eagles. Go into the bye week red hot, come out against 4 tough opponents, and they win the first 2. They lose the third, and now they lost the fourth in a Black Friday showcase game. And I don't know if we're going to get those good numbers on the Bears anymore after another one, but they could chalk it up to Eagle. For the Bears had 425 total yards of offense, 281 yards on the ground. The Eagles outgained them in yards per play, but it was the other stats is just dominating by the Bears. 39 minutes of possession against the Philadelphia Eagles. They could not stop the run. I was saying we wanted to see what this Eagles defense could do against Ben Johnson's rushing attack and his offense. And we finally got to see it, and the Eagles were not up to the task, as many expected they wouldn't be last season. Lions, Eagles, if that had happened last season, I would have been on the Detroit Lions, but unfortunately, we did not get that. We got the Commanders, of course, winning in the divisional round there over the Lions, and the Eagles kind of picking the bones of the Commanders in the championship round on route to a Super Bowl against a fraudulent Chiefs team. But they got it done, and we'll see if they can get it done again as the season progresses. Of course, they're still going to be in the playoffs likely, but we'll see. It's been a long time since someone's won the NFCs 2 years in a row. Will it finally happen? We shall see. All right, let's move along to Sunday. Texans Colts. Colts 3.5 point home favorites. The total is 44.5. Danny Dimes has a fractured fibula, but he's going to play through it, is the expectation. He was all right against the Chiefs, 19 of 31, 2 touchdowns, 181 yards passing, no interceptions. That's the big key I have highlighted here. You do not turn the ball over. And they almost won that game, but the Chiefs backs against the wall found a way to come back and win, but not cover. The Colts got the money. Chiefs got the win. The Colts conceded almost 500 yards of offense, and their offense did nothing in the fourth quarter or the late stages of that game. That Taylor was held to 58 yards on 16 carries. It's back-to-back overtime games now for the Colts. So they didn't have the bye in between. Of course, that first one was in Germany. So, but the defense was on the field for 91 plays on Sunday. That is of concern. I remember Miami was on the field, that fraudulent win they had over the Bills with the butt punt. And that they did not look good the week after. But otherwise, they're a fairly healthy group, so maybe the 91 plays might not be as concerning. The Texans, coming off extra rest, remember, they played Thursday, beat the Bills 23-19. Will Anderson Jr. is playing like the defensive player of the year right now. I don't know if he's going to win it, but he's definitely up there in the rankings. They were slightly outgained, 4.7 to 4.9 yards per play for the Bills. Only 5 penalties. That's good for the Texans. Very good for 40. Even those 40 yards, very good. Last season, penalties killing this team. Nope, not too many penalties on Thursday. Held the Bills 0 of 2 in the red zone. All of a sudden, the receiving core is healthy. Schultz and Higgins are now being joined by Nico Collins and Christian Kirk. 4 pretty good weapons for C.J. Stroud, who I believe will be back. He full practice Wednesday and Thursday. I did this. Just going to confirm. I think, yeah, he's going to return. Yeah. Stroud cleared to return for Sunday. So they get their quarterback back, though. Davis Mills has been good in his absence. Of course, one of the top backups. Will Anderson Jr. popped up in the injury report yesterday, but he's good to go. Texans getting healthy. Colts also fairly healthy, but that injury to Daniel Jones isn't elementary. I was when I was going to bet the Texans, but then the Anderson Jr. news, Will Anderson Jr. news popped up, and I didn't bet it yet. Now that he is basically announced in, I'm taking Houston plus 3.5. I think the Texans are live to make noise here in the AFC playoff picture. Your quarterback is back. Yeah, the offensive line has been a concern. That is obviously the Texans' main concern, is the offensive line, but there's something to be said about continuity and the offensive line getting better as the season progresses. It's not great, but their defense is so good, and their defensive line, like, consider in practice, you're the offensive line, you're going up against these monsters every week. It's got to help you, right? It's like, well, I have to deal with Will Anderson Jr. and what's the other guy's name? Oh, I can't. Smith. I can't think of the guy on the other side, but I have to go against Will Anderson Jr. And that's gonna drive me nuts. Let me just. Is it Harrison Smith? Is that who I'm thinking? He's the guy they got from the Vikings. Oh my god! No, I don't want. I'm sorry. It's gonna drive me nuts if I don't get his name right now. Who's the guy on the other side there? Danielle Hunter. Unfortunately, on the ranking in the middle, and Murray Edwards, Aziz Al-Shiri. You're going up against these monsters in practice. I feel like the offensive line, and then they have to go. Now the Colts have monsters in the middle too: Buckner, Grover Stewart. But I think this is a good spot for the Texans. They're back live in the division race. They're back live in the playoff race. They are, I believe, the first team out right now. I heard somebody say, why not bet Texans futures? The offensive line's concerned, but I'll take a look at the numbers. I might take a look at the numbers, and I'll post on Instagram at Pieguy9871 if I decide to go ahead on Texans futures. I don't know if you can hear the meowing in the background, but the cat is meowing. I don't know if it's the same thing as the dog is barking, but I like the dog here. Houston plus 3.5, first official play for Pie Guys Pick'em Friday edition, of course. We had the Tuesday show with Cowboy Keith. Niners, Browns, 4.5 point home dogs. The total here 36 and a half. Of course, the big story here 23 miles per hour or 37 kilometers an hour. Winds expected in this game with snow showers. The 49ers weren't impressive against Carolina. That they in terms of the passing attack, especially. Like, they were able to run the ball and kill the clock and slowly matriculate their way down the field. They gave Carolina a couple of chances to come back in that game. Of course, Brock Purdy threw 3 picks. Carolina was a little bit incompetent. We'll talk about them shortly, but there were spots where it's like, why are you throwing the football? Why is, you have Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle, and I feel like they didn't use them enough. And Kyle Shanahan was calling plays to basically run the clock out. That was a horrible Monday Night Football game, but they did have 147 rush yards. They were outgained by 0.4 yards per play. And injuries, linebacker Tatum Batoon and defensive tackle Sam Okunwogi, I believe his name is, didn't practice on Wednesday. I'll check quickly for updates on those players. In terms of the Cleveland Browns, they got the win. Shedeur Sanders gets his first NFL win on the back of the Cleveland defense. I mean, they were all over the Raiders. Geno Smith was sacked 10 times. They outgained Vegas by 2 yards per play, 5.6 to 3.6. They only had 11 first downs, though. And, of course, they forced a fumble. Browns had 8 penalties for 77 yards, which isn't great. But at the same time, Vegas had 100 yards of penalties, so it didn't really come in too much play on that game. The kicker Eddie Pinheiro is out. I think they signed somebody. I can't remember who it was though. But Okundionu, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, and Tatum Bethune are both ruled out. On the Brown side of things, Aiden Huntington, defensive edge, and Alex Wright-Finch are both out. And Jerome Ford is questionable, though they have Judkins. This is a game the Browns can win. The Browns, believe it or not, aren't out of the playoff picture because the AFC North is so bad. They're 3 games back with a win. They'd be 2 games back of the Ravens. And depending on what happens in Pittsburgh, possibly the Steelers as well. They're not expected to make the playoffs. Shedeur Sanders, he was fine. The offense has more spunk with him. He's got more playmaking abilities than Dylan Gabriel and some of these other guys they've been throwing out there outside of Flacco. I leaned Browns. I've heard people just hammering the under. I worry both these teams want to run the football. Both these teams might be able to run the football. The Browns defense is very, very good. So the concern is, can the Niners run the football? What's San Francisco team total here? Be 22.5? I don't know. Do they get to, but the offense has been so good. And, Purdy threw 3 picks last week. I don't know if he's going to do it again, but this wind, snow, advantage Browns, in my opinion. I'm not going to play them. Browns off a win. I know the last time they're off when I did play them because, they were hungry for a second one. The Shedeur Sanders in the snow and the wind isn't exactly who I want to back. And it's not like the Niners aren't Vegas where it's just an auto fade. So what I do like in this game, though, Judkins rush attempts. 18.5. I think it's plus money and over 18.5 plus money. I'll probably play. I think he gets 20 carries here, especially in the wind. I know the Niners are going to run away with this one. And I think the wind is going to necessitate a heavy ground attack. And he's a young guy, Quishon Judkins. He's going to get the bell cow, the lion's share of the carries here. So Quishon Judkins over 18.5 rush attempts is the official play for Niners, Browns on Pie Guys Pick'em here. As we move along to Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers, 3.5, 4-point favorites. The total here between 44.5, 45.5. Probably find a 45. A lot of variance in these lines this week, which is interesting. Arizona's injured to hell and high water again. Look at these guys. Look at this list of injuries. I have offensive lineman Will Hernandez and Kelvin Beachum didn't practice on Thursday. Hayden Connor, Christian Jones, limited on Thursday. Both offensive linemen. Max Melton, cornerback. Keitrell Clark, cornerback, didn't practice on Thursday. Walter Nolan, their star defensive lineman, didn't practice on Thursday. The rookie defensive lineman. And lots of running backs still out. And Bam Knight was horrible. He had 10 carries for 12 yards in the last game. Michael Carter had I think a decent yards per carry. They found a way to lose that game to the Jaguars last week. I mean, that was I was very lucky to cash -2. I'll take it. I'm not giving the money back, but I was very lucky. So the Jaguars did outgain them by almost 2 yards per play. But Arizona won the turnover by a 4-0, had 25 first downs, and they weren't able to come away with a win. Michael Wilson, Trey McBride, Greg Dortch are all good in the receiving game. The rushing plays with Greg Dortch went backwards, so I don't think that we'll see too many of those this week. But yeah, they could score a little bit. The Tampa pass defense was absolutely throttled by the Rams on Sunday night. Baker has a shoulder injury. It looks like he's gonna play. Bridgewater got a lot of reps though in practice, but this was 2.5, 3 earlier today. So this line move tells me that the markets believe Baker Mayfield's going to play. They're still in first place. It's fairly comfortable. The Panthers playing the Rams this week. So Tampa knows about that. And they seem to get out of their own way. You're off a bad loss. I mean, look, 6.1 to 2.9 yards, but absolute domination by the Rams. Through the air. The Cardinals, could score a little bit here, and Baker's injured, but I can't bet Arizona. I mean, there's no way they're injured. Like I said, the hell in high water. Good on the guys for putting up an effort and making plays. And last week against the Jaguars at home, and I'm gonna go on the road, Tampa. Tampa was healthy. This is easy Tampa, but they're not. I don't trust them here. This is the fourth game. Remember, they've had a 4-game losing streak with back-to-back years still in the division. This will be the fourth game. Next week, the bye point is coming for Tampa. If they lose this one, I might back them next week. But the Baker injury really concerns me, so it's a pass. We'll stop fading the Cardinals for 1 week. They showed me something last week, but they still couldn't even cover. Jacksonville tried to give him that game time and time. I was losing my hair watching Trevor Lawrence throw interceptions. I think there's better spots on the board. I would only play Tampa, but one more week maybe. Let's see how Baker looks this week. Let's see what his shoulder is, because we saw what happened in Cleveland when even though it was on throwing shoulder and he got injured. He wasn't the same. Bucky Irving should be back in this game. He's still technically questionable. Finally, Bucky Irving may make his return. So do with that as you will. All right, Saints, Dolphins. Dolphins, 5.5 point home favorites. The total here, 41.5, 42. I trust the Saints as a favorite, and I get what I deserve, I suppose. I mean, Kirk Cousins threw a pick 6. I was like, oh, here we go. Classic Kirk Cousins. We're got this. Come on, Saints. And the Saints, they played all right, but they couldn't do anything in the red zone. Taysom Hill was horrible. Tyler Shoke was okay. 9 Falcons penalties for 82 yards, and the Cousins pick 6, they still lost by 14. Shook had 243 yards, 1 pick. He was sacked 5 times. The Falcons were able to get pressure on the offense line. Remember, Trevor Penning is now in Los Angeles with the Chargers. Cesar Ruiz hasn't been great, and he's been injured a lot, so maybe the injuries are finally catching up to him. Taysom Hill, as mentioned, the plays didn't work. Olave was good, 70 yards receiving, 9 catches, 9 or 4, I can't tell them right. They're outgained by 1.7 yards per play. They cut kicker Blake Grupe and brought in, known sex pest Justin Tucker to kick. That what a great PR move that was. I mean, come on, you're 2-8 or 2-9 now. You're 2-9. You're not going anywhere. Why would you bring in Justin Tucker? I mean, that's just a PR nightmare waiting to happen. I understand if you are in, position to win now and your kicker goes down and it's like, well, it's the kicker with the suspect personal life, or a kicker you don't trust. But yeah, anyways, they signed Cade York, so. But I'm so shocked that they brought him in. Yeah, and they stunk off a win. This is twice now they've been horrible off a win. So if they win another game, something to keep note of. Kamara looks like he's going to be out. He got hurt in that game. On the other side, the Dolphins coming off a bye and that win in Spain. I was laughing. They're in the hunt now in the graphics at 4-7. I don't know who they would catch. Maybe the Jaguars fall out of favor. Someone would have to fall. The Jaguars, the Chargers, or the Bills. Somebody would have to fall. And then talk about the Bills in a bit. It's possible, but the Dolphins, anyways, they're playing for their coach. McDaniel might be back, as the rumors right now. They won the turnover battle, 2-0. It was a fairly even game against Washington, but I think that was the key in that game. They found a way to win in overtime. And they found ways to lose early in the season. I know the Jets game, they found a way to win, but the Jets find ways to lose too. Early in the season, they had the game against New England. They could have won that game. The Thursday night game against Buffalo, they couldn't find a way to win that game. Now they're finding ways to win. The momentum has started. Darren Waller could be back. That's huge. And I think they like this defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver. Again, I don't know about him, bringing up his what did he use? I forget what he used. He used something weird as motivation. But yeah, I think the Finns can win this game. Also, something to note, they have 5 draft picks in the top 100 for next year. So this could be a quick, blip and like a quick dive in the Dolphins' trajectory. It's not like they're not on the level of the Saints, the Jets, some of these worst teams, the Titans. And Tua, stinky Tua comes out to play once in a while, but when he's all right, this team works. I'll probably have so. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to split up a unit. I'm going to put some on the Dolphins -5.5. I'm going to put some on the Achane rush yards. And I'm going to put some on the Achane rushing and receiving yards because I feel like Devon Achane should have a good game. I mean, Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier had a good game against the Saints. So I think I'm going to split up a unit. We'll play some on Miami and some on Achane props. I feel like that's the way to bet the Dolphins right now. They could win by 3, but Achane has a good game, and maybe you win a little bit on those bets, even though you lose the spread. But yeah, the Saints are bad, and they're on the road here, and Dolphins kind of got a little something going. Keep their season alive. You don't want your season to like. I know you could argue it's already over, but 7 losses. There's 18 games or 17 games that you can 10-7 made the playoffs before. So I they're not completely out of it, and you don't want to lose to the Saints and that be the decider. So I'll take the Finns here and some Achane props. Not the early games I wasn't enamored with too much, but I found some things that I do like. As we move along to Carolina, where the Los Angeles Rams are in town to possibly beat the tar out of the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers are 10.5 home dogs. 6-6 team, 10.5 home dogs. My goodness, the total is 45. Plus or minus a half point here. Some variance on the total. Canellis, I mean, he looked incompetent on Monday Night Football. I don't know. You have Rico Dowdle. You have Chuba Hubbard. You have a pretty good run game. You're at the 2-yard line. You've been running successfully so far in the red zone. And they call a pass on first down at the 2. Huh? What? Against that Niners defense? And then, of course, Young throws a pick. I don't know what the Panthers, I mean, the Niners were playing the run on those other plays too. And the Dowdle was getting 3-4 yards. Why stop there? And then on the 2-point attempt, So they kick the extra point, they make it, but there's a penalty. It's like, oh yeah, we'll go from the 1. That's fine, but run the ball. It's the 1 yard line for the point of going for it at the 1 is that now we can run the ball and it's really close, right? Now, I get it if you have a good play, but that wasn't a good play. It was horrible. Both times, I thought you could use your running backs. Your running backs have been your best. Your run game has been the best offense. I know Bryce Young had 440 yards like 2 weeks ago against the Atlanta Falcons because they falconed the game away, but that was horrible in my opinion. Dave Canales, I know they're 6-6, and this has been the best Panther season in a long time, but I still don't trust the guy. I don't think he's that great. Some of those Panther wins, some of them they look good. Some of them, they have good players. Not everywhere, but they have, the McMillans and the Rico Dowdles. The offensive line can play well on occasion. But now, and J.C. Horn with 2 interceptions, and one of them was excellent. Great play by him, reading the play. They only outgained by 0.4 yards per play. They picked off Purdy 3 times, held the ball. 49ers held the ball for 37 minutes, though. So Carolina only had about 23 minutes of possession. And the injuries have caught up again. J.C. Horn, Chandler Zavala. So J.C. Horn, the cornerback, who made the 2 picks last week. Chandler Zavala, the guard. Cade Mays, the center. Roseboom, the linebacker, and Chirelis, the linebacker, all out. Now, at least 3 of those guys, probably 4, are key players for the Panthers. Their best player on defense is Horn. Derek Brown is good, but I think Horn's a little bit better. Like I said, this is the best team in the NFL right now. Current form, the Los Angeles Rams is the best team in the NFL, number 1 in most people's power rankings. Destroyed Tampa Bay. You talked about that 6.1 to 2.8 yards per play through the air. Stafford's the MVP favorite. But Puna 4, nose tackle. And free safety Cameron Kitchens questionable for this game. Puna 4 couldn't matter here in terms of stopping the Panthers' run game. Panthers are heading into their bye. They got, that was pretty bad on Monday Night Football. It could be a step-up spot for them, but it's Rams or Pats. I don't want Carolina. I'm done with this team. I can't read this team. I'm probably not going to bet this game. If I bet the Rams, they'll win by 9 or something. If I bet the Panthers, they'll get destroyed. If I bet the over, the Panthers' offense won't show up. If I bet the under, the Rams will score 50. That's how I feel in this game. So this is a pass. But J.C. Horn out makes me want to take the Rams. I mean, the Rams' passing attack is ridiculous right now. And Carolina probably can't stop the pass. I mean, 45 was the Rams. The Rams total is going to be in the 30s. I don't know. It'll be 27. Is it 20, 27, 27, 17, 28? I'll take a look at maybe the Rams team total because I don't know if Carolina. So the Niners ran the clock out last week. The Niners decided we're going to run the ball and basically burn clock for half the game. So I think there could be a spot here for the Rams team total. So I will consider the Rams team total. I'll take a look at the numbers after the show. So Rams team total, if it's less than 20, I think they can get 4 touchdowns here easily. That's not too much where it's the Rams are going to stop. I think we can get 4 touchdowns here. Rams team total over will probably be on my card. Falcons Jets. Falcons 2.5-point road favorites. The total here is 39.5. The Falcons snapped their losing streak finally with a win over the Saints, 24-10. Kirk Cousins was 16 for 23, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns, but of course up to his old tricks again with the pick 6. Outgained the Saints by 1.7 yards per play, held the Saints to 0-3 in the red zone, but the Saints just weren't good. I feel like in this one, Drake London's out again, though Mooney had a good game for once. 74 yards and a touchdown. Dylan Drummond, wide receiver, he's going to be on this 53-man active roster replacing Drake London, the rookie. So somebody maybe to watch if you're for some reason watching this game. The new puppy, it kind of worked for Aaron Glenn and the Jets. They covered. They outgained the Ravens in yards per play and total offensive numbers slightly. But they lost by 13 still because 2 turnovers and 81 yards of penalties. Typical Jets, bad coaching, things. Bad coaching, bad focus, typical Jets stuff. They have this guy, quarterback Chris Boyd's in the hospital with a gunshot wound. That can't be very good. Yeah, I looked at this game. I said, "Oh, am I betting the Jets here?" And then but if it was Fields, maybe. But Tyrod back there with that Falcons pass rush, what they did last week to Tyler Shuck, I think they can get pressure. I think the Falcons probably win this game. You with Kirk Cousins, but like I'm not betting on Kirk Cousins on the road as a favorite. It's just not happening. So it's a pass. I don't want either team here. I don't know the weather's probably pretty poor in New York, so I don't really want the over either. Plus, I don't trust the Jets to do much. It's a little bit low for me considering under. This is 41. I'd probably bet the under, but 39.5. Yeah, pass, easy pass. I don't trust either team. Don't want either team. Jaguars, Titans. Usually this is on Thursday night, isn't it? Titans, somewhere around 6-point home favorites. The total is 41.5. You chop around. There's variance on this line as well. A lot of variance in the lines, as I mentioned this week. The Jaguars, we talked about that game. They found a way to win despite Trevor Lawrence making my hair fall out with his interceptions. They were better in every way except for the turnovers. Josh Hines-Allen was a monster on the field. They outgained the Cardinals by nearly 2 yards per play. But next week, Indianapolis comes to Jacksonville. Is this a look? Is this a second straight game on the road? Could be a look ahead spot here. I don't. I'm a little bit worried that this might be a little bit of a look ahead spot for the Jaguars here. In terms of the Titans, but they are getting tight end Brenton Strange back, and he matters. I don't want the Titans, not in this point spread range, but they did fight last week to cover that game. They wanted that touch. Cam Ward is playing better. Even who's the coach? Mike McDonald was talking about how well Cam Ward played last week. So good on Cam Ward. Kamara Dike with another return touchdown. That's the second of the season. I cashed anytime touchdown on the first one, so I was pretty happy with that one. Very limited though in pass catchers. Eric Monner, the Canadian wide receiver, is questionable for this game. If you're to have him back on the field, that could be a big difference on the offense. Because right now, your number one targets are Chigo Okonkwo, DK, the solid NFL players, but not 1 and 2 targets. And Chigo Okonkwo is also on the injury report, and he's questionable, along with tackle Dan Moore, who's been okay. Dan Moore, basically like the Mendoza line for offensive line, just barely decent. But center Lloyd Cushenberry and defensive tackle Shai Tuttle are both out for this game. We talk about the Titans having their best players. I mean, Calvin Ridley's hurt. We know that. Jeffrey Simmons back. I can't remember if he's on IR or not. But we talked about they're missing all their best players. We know Calvin Ridley's out. So yeah, Jeffrey Simmons is in. So they have Jeffrey Simmons back, but it's just more of their good players going down. Shai Tuttle's a pretty good defensive tackle, and Lloyd Cushenberry, he's not nothing special, but for the Titans, he's way better than what they had last year at center. Yeah, the Jags, though, they feel like the Bears right now. They're being disrespected. This is the Titans we're talking about here. They're being disrespectful. But I know it's a divisional game, but they should win in the trenches here. But for the Jags on the injury side, they have injuries in the trenches. Patrick McCarry and Chuma Odoga on the offensive line are both out, and Trayvon Walker, defensive end, is out. So the advantage in the trenches for the Jaguars might not be there. Josh Hines-Allen will still be on the field, and he'll probably wreak havoc on this Titans team. I'm a little bit concerned with the back door, but I will play small Jacksonville -5. And I just think this number opens 7, and it's kept moving in. I get it. There's injuries on the offensive line, and the Titans might be getting a wide receiver back, but they also have injuries in the trenches. Cam Ward is playing better, but they still outgained by 3 yards per play against the Seahawks. But the Jaguars aren't, like I said, they're a playoff team right now. They've beaten the Bills. I don't know, they beat the Bills. I can't remember. They beat the Chiefs, right? They have Indy on deck. That is a bit of a concern. But a small play on Jacksonville here, just small, because I felt like 7 was fair. Like the Titans being touchdown dogs at home sounds about right. 6.5, okay. 6 and 5.5, it's a little bit. Jacksonville can win this game by 6 or 7 here. I know they barely won it last week, but they turned the ball over 4 times. Other than that, they dominated yards per play. So, is Kamara DK going to do it again? Another punt return touchdown? We'll see. I might play the DK touchdown. Because he's going to be probably like he got some receptions too on offense, and he's a nice little player. And you always have the punt return touchdown possibility. So we'll see what the number is for DK. I might take a look at that, but I like Jacksonville here. A little bit of disrespect. I think the market has gone a little bit too far. 5.5 is probably where I want. I know there's this theory where going through the 6, but it hasn't really fully gone through the 6. It's still hovering around 6. So I will take Jacksonville minus 5.5 here. I think that this closes probably 6.5, and the public starts betting on Sunday. So yeah, Jacksonville minus 5.5. I will play small here. Just a number bet. This is. I think we're getting 1.5 of free value here. And hopefully Tila doesn't make my hair fall out again. All right, Vikings Seahawks. The Seahawks 11.5 point, 11.5, 12, 12.5. 12 dead number, so not the biggest variance here. Home chalk, the total 41.5. JJ McCarthy's in concussion protocol, which means, and Carson Wentz is still hurt, which means we will see the NFL debut of Max Brosmer, former Minnesota Golden Gopher in his college days. Oh, and behind him we have John Wolford and our old pal Desmond Ridder. Oh, he's back in the NFL. He's the third string QB here for the Vikings. Desmond Ridder. Some good moments betting against him. Oh, I hope we get a chance to see him at the end of the season. Another opportunity to fade him and his horrible quarterback play. So Max Brosmer, they like the kid, is all the quotes, but here's the problem with Max Brosmer. This is a pretty good Seahawks defense. Oh, and by the way, your starting left guard, he's out. Oh, and your starting left tackle, Christian Jerisaw, he is dealing with an injury, and he's questionable. I think they want to play him, with the rookie, but, their season's kind of going nowhere. He's your franchise left tackle. Do you really want to, risk him getting hurt here? And, like, if Max Brosner gets dropped 6-7 times, was he really? He wasn't the plan to begin with, but who knows? Maybe he plays well. The Seahawks, they blasted the Titans for most of that game, fell asleep a little bit. And a lot of that late, a lot of the punt return touchdown by DK and then the late touchdown drive. But the Titans really wanted it more than the Seahawks. This is just, get in, get out with the win. But they're a fairly healthy group. Darnold, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, which is key against, this defense. And yes, we can't forget about that. The Sam Darnold revenge game. You kick this guy to the curb after he won, 14 games last year for the Minnesota Vikings over a rookie who now he's in concussion protocol. So now we're going to see Max Brosmer. But I think the Seahawks aren't going to sit back in the lead. They might bury the Vikings here. I mean, all the quotes, the defense, they all love Sam Darnold. They all believe in Sam Darnold, and they want to get this win for him. They want to. I think they have no problem embarrassing the Minnesota Vikings here if they want to, and I think they will, because rookie quarterback, first start on the road against a nasty pass rush, offensive line injuries, defensive back's very good too. I mean, this could get ugly, and you have motivation for the home team to bear. Like the Titans, you feel sorry for them. They're going through stuff. They've had rookie Cam Ward seems like a nice guy. You don't really want to bury them. I mean, you did what you had to, and you won the game. I could see the Seahawks. Hey, let's show these guys, what they did to Sam. Knocking him out the door after 2 bad games. And we trust Sam. Sam's our guy. and we're going to make a statement here that Minnesota made a mistake. Really rub it in on them. Hawks minus 11.5, and they're at home too. So, Seahawks should name their number here. I know I laid it with them last week. They got backdoored. But maybe that's why this number is a little bit, cheap in my opinion. Now, the defense for the Vikings is concerned. Brian Flores and his defense. But at the same time, how many points are the Vikings going to score here? I mean, I don't think they're going to be able to run the football much against Minnesota. This kid, he's probably going to turn the ball over once or twice. If Sam Darnold has a clean game, it feels like the Seahawks, bury him here. So I like the Seahawks minus 11.5 in this one. All right, as we move along, 4 games remaining. Of course, 4 yesterday. 3 yesterday, 1 today. So only 12 games on the card for Sunday and Monday. As we move along to Pittsburgh, where the Steelers are 3-point home dogs, the total 45.5. The Bills lost again on Thursday. Okay, the division hopes continue to go up in smoke. Josh Allen looked frustrated. He was getting beat. The Texans pass rush was absolutely all over Josh Allen all day. Oh, and guess who's popped up on the injury report? Oh, all pro tackle Dion Dawkins, potential future Hall of Famer, and your other starting tackle, Spencer Brown. Oh, they're both out, ruled out. And so now you go from Will Anderson to TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith and company. Another pretty good pass rush. Three turnovers by the Bills, 6 penalties for 54 yards. They outgained the Texans by, a little bit, 0.2 yards per play. Maybe about, 60 yards ish. But, the Texans controlled that game for the majority of it. It was Shakir at 110 yards receiving. He's fine. James Cook at 114 yards on the ground. He's fine. But who else is stepping up? I saw Gabe Davis. Oh, Gabe Davis is back. 1 catch, 22 yards, and then he disappeared. He vanished. I completely forgot. I saw him until I looked at the stat. Oh, yeah, Gabe Davis was on the field. You couldn't find him on the field with the telescope. If you asked security at the stadium, they probably couldn't have found him for you. They cut Elijah Moore. Keon Coleman could be back. Who cares? The Dalton Kincaid looks like he's going to be back, and that does matter for the Bills. So, Dalton Kincaid and Terrell Bernard, linebackers, and wide receiver Curtis Samuel have also been ruled out on the Buffalo side. And then, of course, the Inter Magic was enough to beat the Bears. Bears are 9-3 right now. And they put up a competitive game. It was a good game. It was a good game for the Steelers, all things considered. I know they didn't come away with a victory, but 28 points. They lost by 3 point, 2.5 3-point spread. It was they played admirably. And the Ravens losing last night really helps the Steelers division hopes. That can get you going. Aaron Rodgers will be back, though. I mean, does that really? I mean, the line moved half of it was 4. Moved to 3.5, but I think that was the offensive line injuries. And then now it's 3. So, Aaron Rodgers is worth half a point. It sounds about right. He's probably about half point better than Rudolph. And this Bills defense is like Aaron Rodgers probably going to be pretty comfortable in the pocket. This Bills defense isn't great, and I think that the Steelers can run. And the run game's been really good for the Steelers. They ran for over 180 yards, I think, against the Bears last week. I'm just going to double check that, but I believe the Steelers running has been pretty good all season, and this Bills defense has been horrible all season, especially against the run. And the Steelers haven't played the Bills since that playoff game in 2024, so but over a year ago, 2 years ago almost, right? But a lot of the same players, TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith. A lot of the defense is the same. I'm not sure about the offensive line, but there's definitely players who are on that Steelers team who remember losing to the Bills in the playoffs. Yeah, 186 rushing yards. I think they can do the same here. And I think with the injuries to the tackles, Yins or Magic might make an appearance. I like the Steelers +3. And I might even play some money line. I think the Steelers win this game straight up here. I think I'm going to play some money line here. I don't know if it's going to be more than you, but I looked at this game at +4 on Monday when the lines opened. and I was like, oh, I was thinking like, the Steelers could win this one. This isn't, Buffalo favored on the road again by less than 6, more than 3. Now it's down to 3. The Bills could win by 3. Like, obviously the Bills are very good. They have Josh Allen. They could escape. They could, pull some reverse Yinzer magic. But this is in Pittsburgh. I feel like Steelers going to get the favorable whistle here. They're going to play Renegade in the fourth quarter. Yeah, I like Pittsburgh. I'm having a good read on when the Yinzer Magic's coming. I said, there's going to be no Yinzer Magic, a few weeks ago, and that was the right call. I said last week, I'm worried about Yinzer Magic, but I got to bet the Bears. You got to keep riding it. There was Yinzer Magic, but the Bears were able to hold off and get the winner of the push, depending on the number you got. And then this week, I feel like, with an injured offensive line, I like the Steelers' chances. So I will play +3, and I will play some money line here. I'll split it up. I don't know how. It might be even more than a unit. I feel like the +3 probably should be a full play. So I might sprinkle some money line on top of it. The more I think, the concern is offensive tackle Broderick Jones is ruled out for this game, and defensive tackle, as well as defensive tackle Derek Harmon. But one offensive lineman, I think you can compensate for 2 tackles. And Josh Allen, Josh Allen is maybe 1 or 2 plays away from being going off, like he could get tilted and go off the deep end a little. I could see this being bad for the Bills if the Steelers are able to really get pressure here. And I don't trust the Bills offense coordinator to come around. And Tomlin, Tomlin, say what you want, but he's consistent. His team's always decent. The Steelers are going to give a good effort. And, they win this game. They're in first place in the North. It's a big game. Yeah, Yinzer Magic for me. Steelers +3. And I will be on some Steelers money line. Raiders, Chargers. Anywhere between 8.5 to 10 point favorites here. Another variance line. Total 40.5, 41. Chip Kelly has finally been fired. The city of Las Vegas can celebrate. He's gone. What a disaster. Geno Smith was sacked 10 times. You let Shadur Sanders in his first NFL start win by 14 points. Oh, what an embarrassment, the Las Vegas Raiders. Then the news comes out. Chip Kelly was apparently calling plays that they hadn't even installed. They hadn't practiced these plays, and he's calling them on the sideline, and they're wondering why Geno Smith's getting sacked 10 times, throwing interceptions. People are in the wrong place. Oh, what a complete, absolute catastrophe. I mean, I could have told you, well, when I heard Chip Kelly was signed, I was like, Chip Kelly, like, wasn't he the I remember him a few years ago back, that last time he was in the NFL, but he was horrible. He might have outdone himself. Oh, but Raiders fans, congratulations. Chip Kelly's fired. So good for the Las Vegas Raiders, but they're still a mess. Like even without Chip Kelly, but who knows? It's hard to tell how much of this disaster of a Raiders season was on the hands of Chip Kelly. I mean, he only lasted 11 games. Greg Olsen will take over as offensive coordinator. Apparently, he's been offensive coordinator of the Raiders twice before. This is his third time. So he knows some of the guys. I'm sure he was pretty good in the Gruden era, from what I was reading. And then Adam Butler, their big defensive tackle, he is injured. And then of course another. The Raiders season is so bad. Geno Smith was flipping off fans that were booing him. Or the Raiders, I guess. I mean, the way you guys are playing, I don't know why you're flipping anybody off. They should be flipping you off, Geno Smith. The way you've been playing, your horrible decision. I know, we found out now Chip Kelly was even more of a disaster than what it looked like on the field, but and of course he apologized for it, so good on him for making amends. But it's a classless move by Geno. I mean, the Raiders fans have been through everything the last few years, and the disaster you gave them. I mean, you finally have you went from Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, 2 backup quarterbacks essentially. Gardner Minshew's a good backup quarterback, and then Aiden O'Connell, fringe backup quarterback, to Geno Smith. Finally some hope You know, Ashton Genty, and then you get Chip, and of course, and Pete Carroll. You know, there's hope. And the way you played this season was just disaster, horrible, complete, just especially on offense. I mean, just like some of the worst plays I've ever seen, the worst offensive line play I've ever seen. Chip Kelly's at the door. We'll see what that does. The Chargers coming off a shellacking and a bye, though. I mean, this is a textbook. The Chargers step up here. I mean, they got Jacksonville at 35-6. They only had 3 yards per play in that game. Trey Lance came in the game. It was so bad. He was 3 of 8. He got sacked once. They had no run game. And Marion Hampton, he will return soon, but not for this game. He will remain out for this game. They're playing the Raiders. They're still down both starting tackles, but of course they have Trevor Penning now. I mean, I think he's their swing tackle. I don't even think he's starting, but maybe he will be starting by the end of the season. It's interesting because, like, if it was still the Chip Kelly offense and it was still the complete disaster we saw last week, I'd leave 8.5 here with the Chargers because they're coming off getting smoked and they're coming off the bye and you're thinking about it for 2 weeks. But with Kelly being how bad, like the play calling thing is horrible. Like how there are probably other things like how much of this Raiders season is at the feet of Chip Kelly. Like how much should he hold this team back? So it's hard to tell, which is why I'm concerned, especially laying a big number like this is a divisional game. And Crosby could have a good game here. He's the kind of guy to rally the troops. And, we finally got that idiot out of the building. Let's reset. Let's the divisional game. Let's have a good showing. And maybe, the Chargers win by, a touchdown or something, or even lose. Like, it's, I'm not necessarily sold, but at the same time, there's absolutely no chance I'm backing Vegas. So it's a pass. Lean to the Chargers. It's a pass. Yeah, you don't know, like the reports right now of how much of a disaster Chip Kelly was. There could be a massive uptick in terms of Raiders' performance over the next few weeks. Will it happen the first week? I'm not so sure. So it's a Chargers spot, but 8.5 is a lot, especially for the Chargers. Like they don't tend to blow teams out of the water. If the Chargers win, it's going to be like 20 and covers him like the last game, like 20-7 or 24-10, something like that, 24-13. But I think the Raiders offense might be a bit better without the idiot known as Chip Kelly behind it. All right, Denver Broncos, Washington Commanders. Commanders 5.5-point home dogs, a total of 43.5. Broncos are off a big win against the Chiefs in a bye, complete opposite of the Chargers. It's a fat and happy spot waiting to happen, especially if the Raiders pull off an upset. They outgained KC. They won the turnover, but it wasn't a fraudulent win. Pat Surtain's back. They extend Carter Wettenberg. They're one of their, I think he's the center, one of their offensive linemen. I can't remember which one. And the defense. We'll talk about this. So Washington's off an overtime loss to Miami and the bye in Spain. They lost that game. Dan Quinn liked the run game. He wants to continue using the run game despite Denver's really, really good run defense. So he's almost challenging the Denver run. That was the article. He's challenging the Denver run defense. Like, oh, you don't want to do that. The last time somebody did that, it didn't end well. So Jaden Daniels, it looks like he's close to coming back, but he will remain out for this game. Terry McLaurin, however, is back despite him not practicing on Friday. He's expected to play. The line here, my first reaction was a little bit cheap on Denver, but then I thought more about what has Denver really done? I mean, the defense is excellent, but the offense has been hit and miss. Commanders have been playing okay, even with Mariota. This is a clear pass, right? This is Sunday Night Football too. This looks like it's going to be a horrible game. Like I could see this being like really one of that Denver Vegas game a few weeks ago was real bad, and this one could repeat that. It's a non-conference opponent on the road. It is Sunday Night Football, though. And tight end Nate Adkins is out for the Broncos. That's really their only person missing. So, like, I don't want to bet Washington here, but I don't want Denver. This is a fat and happy flat spot waiting to happen. I mean, the Chiefs lost again. You're sitting pretty. I know the Chargers are somewhat on your tail, but yeah, big win then a bye. It's and then playing a team with a backup quarterback, and you're getting your star player back in Pat Surtain. Like, I could really see an exhale early. Like this could be a trap spot here. But I don't trust Washington. If it was a 7, maybe I consider. But even then, like it never gives their best effort. It's trouble in my opinion for the Commanders. All right, Monday Night Football. So clear pass. Monday Night Football. Giants, Patriots. Patriots 7.5 point home favorites. A total 46.5. Jackson Dart will be back under center for Monday Night Football. This game looks way more fun than that Washington Denver nonsense on Sunday. They put up another. Since Dable's been, even when Dable was there, I mean, the Giants put up good effort every week, it feels like, for the most part. Like last week, we had that fun play with Jameis breaking the tackle, scoring a touchdown. Fantastic play. Jameis Winston, just a fun guy. They got to keep, said bad teams, keep signing this guy. Even good teams, sign him as your backup. He's fun. He's entertainment. Jameis Winston. He's, I'll tune into a game to see Jameis Winston play any other week. But they were unable to stop Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs basically won the game by himself. I mean, they had a lead on the Lions for the majority of that game. They just couldn't stop Jahmyr Gibbs. And, they took him to OT and then Jahmyr Gibbs again. So, and the concern with the Giants here is how much is Dart going to run. I mean, he's been 4 times now in concussion protocol, checked at least. And then, of course, Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, and Flanagan Fowles all didn't practice Thursday, Friday. All guys on the defensive front. Concerns going up against pretty good quarterback in Drake May. Well, maybe second favorite behind Stafford MVP, second or third favorite. New England won, but they didn't cover. 5.9 yards per play. Outgained the Bengals by almost a full yard per play. A defensive score. Didn't cover the spread. Why? Mike Vrabel playing conservative, playing not to lose, I guess, a little bit. Playing, trusting his defense, whatever you want to call it, however you want to spin it. Mike Vrabel, that I didn't like that performance. It makes me hesitant to lay it here with the Pats again, despite they're probably the right side here, but doesn't mean they're going to cover. Trevion Henderson could do some, we saw what Gibbs did. Trevion Henderson's fast too. And especially when you got, if those 3 guys on the defensive front are out, I could see Trevion Henderson making a big impact here. So I might be on some Trevion Henderson props in this game. But then again, New England might give the ball to Ramondre Stevenson for some reason again. But hopefully they've learned their lesson with that. But there is a concern. Left guard, Jared Wilson's doubtful to play. And Chris Tonga and Harold Landry on defense. Both didn't practice Thursday or Friday. They're both listed as questionable. So, guard missing could be a concern for New England. Weather should be okay here. It's not like the Cleveland debacle we're going to have earlier in the day. So, what I do like here is the over. The Giants are a dead nuts over team right now. I mean, their defense can't stop anything. If they get a lead, right? The other team's going to come back. We know that. We've seen that lots of times. Saw it last week, saw it in the Denver game, especially a team with a good offense like the Patriots. If the Patriots get a lead, is more concerning for the over because they might try to just run the clock out a little bit, especially with the way Vrabel's playing at the red zone. The red zone offense has really been bad for the Patriots. That's a concern. I mean, the red zone offense for the Patriots has not been good. But I mean, I think they can score on the Giants. There could be some big plays potentially. I mean, the Patriots have been able to make the big plays. The Giants have been able to make the big plays. I think we could see some big plays in this game. Now, I know I had the Monday Night Football over last week, and it went up flames, but 46.5, 47, I think we can get. The 47 is like one of the keyer totals. There's not really key numbers in totals, but 47 is one of them. And I think we can get there. And I'm not laying it with the Pats. This could be 24-23, the way Vrabel, plays conservatively. But I think there's enough weapons on the offense that they're going to get theirs against the Giants. The Giants, even with Dartback, even if he doesn't run as much, he's still dynamic. He's still going to be able to escape pressure. He's still going to be able to make throws down the field. They still have some decent weapons in the passing game. Theo Johnson, I think, is on the injury report. So that's a concern. The Bellinger's all right. Tyrone Tracy's been great last couple of weeks. So, yeah, the Giants are a dead nuts over team, and the Patriots, they have been an over team until last week. So, maybe hopefully somebody gets in Mike Rivers and says, hey, we can win by more than 6 points. You have a good quarterback. You can throw the ball down the field. You can go for it on fourth down. You know what I mean? So hopefully somebody's in Vrabel's ear and we can get this up and over the total. All right. Thank you for watching. Second show of the week. I'll post some reels later, hopefully, at Pieguy9871 for any updates. Maybe I might let you know if I bet that Rams. I'm probably going to bet the Rams team total in that one. In terms of a best bet, what will be the best bet this week? Taking a look here. What do I like? I could go with Seattle, but they did kind of get me last week. So I'm a little bit concerned that the Vikings defense could do something. But I do still really like Seattle. I've had a good read on the Steelers pretty much all season. Yinzer Magic is in the air. Give me the Pittsburgh Steelers +3. Pieguy Pickham's best bet. The Bills are on a downward spiral. The Steelers, they're even keel, man. 9-8 every year. And this is one of their 9 wins. Pittsburgh Steelers +3. Pieguy Pickham's best bet for the remainder of Week 13. Of course, the Bears, easy cash earlier today. Feels nice. Feels good. Cash the win total. Both win totals. Fantastic. All right. Thank you again for watching. Hopefully you enjoy the rest of your holiday weekend if you're in the States, or if you're in somewhere else in the world, enjoy the rest of the weekend. And we'll see you again next week for another edition of Pie Guys Pick'em. Goodbye.